Have you ever just stopped and wondered how you make any sense of the world? I mean, not just what you're seeing, but how you're seeing it as this, coherent, understandable reality. Well, we're about to dive into one of the biggest ideas in all of philosophy, the idea that your brain has pre-installed software that literally turns chaos into order.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the problem, this idea of a chaotic world. Then we'll introduce Kant's solution, what we're calling your brain's operating system. After that, we'll break down its key features, and finally, we'll get into what it really means that you are the architect of your own reality.
Okay, so let's set the stage. We're going to start with the huge problem that the philosopher Immanuel Kant was obsessed with, and it's a question that gets to the very foundation of our experience.
I mean, seriously, think about it for a second. Right now, your senses are just being bombarded with information. Light, sounds, textures, smells. If you didn't have some kind of organizing principle, it would all just be a meaningless blur, a chaotic stream of data. So how do we get from that raw static to a world of real objects with causes and effects?
And this is where Kant comes in with his absolutely game-changing answer. He said the mind isn't just a passive bucket that's collecting all this sensory data. Nope. He argued that it actively structures everything we perceive. He called these structures the categories of understanding. And here's the crucial part. These are not concepts you learn from experience, like learning the color red or what a chair is. According to Kant, they are innate. They are the tools you're born with. They make experience possible in the first place.
Honestly, the best way to wrap your head around this is to think of the categories as the operating system for your mind, right? It's like the Windows or Mac OS for your brain. It's the background software that's always running, organizing all the raw input into the user-friendly interface that you call reality.
So, the process basically looks like this. Step 1, a flood of raw, messy sensory data comes in. Step 2, your mind's pre-installed software, those categories, immediately gets to work, sorting and structuring it all. And step 3, the output, a coherent, meaningful experience of the world as you know it.
All right, so let's pop the hood and get a little more specific. Kant broke this mental software down into 12 different functions or categories, and he grouped them into 4 main classes. We're going to start with the first 2, quantity and quality.
So this first group of categories, quantity, answers a really simple question. How much? This is the part of your mental software that deals with numbers and amounts.
And what's so cool is just how fundamental these are. Unity, that's what lets you see something as a single thing. Plurality lets you see a bunch of those things. And totality lets you think of the entire collection as a complete whole.
So for example, when you glance at a fruit bowl, your mind doesn't just see a random mess of red and green shapes. It automatically applies these categories to see one apple, many apples, or all the apples in the bowl. And this happens instantly, without you even having to think about it.
Okay, next up is our second software feature, quality. This set of categories doesn't care about numbers. It's all about the nature of something's existence. What kind of thing is it? These categories help your mind make these super fast judgments about what is, what isn't, and what's somewhere in between. Reality is just the concept of a thing's presence. Negation is its absence, and limitation, that's just the idea of a partial presence or a boundary.
Think about sound. It's a perfect example. Your mind can process the presence of a loud noise. That's reality. It can process the total absence of sound, silence, that's negation, and it can also process something that's neither fully loud nor fully silent, like a quiet hum. That's limitation.
All right, we've covered how your mind sorts things by amount and by their existence. Now let's get into the final 2 functions, and these are arguably a bit more complex, but also way cooler: relation and modality.
The categories of relation are all about how your mind builds a web of connections between different things you perceive. This is what stops you from seeing the world as just a random jumble of disconnected objects. It's the glue. This stuff is huge. It's how your mind understands that some things are substances that have properties. It's how it grasps the incredibly important concept of cause and effect. And it's how it understands that things can interact and influence each other at the same time.
And here's how it plays out in the real world. You don't see treeness and then separately greenness. Your mind automatically unites them. The green is a property of the tree. And you instinctively get that fire causes smoke. You don't just see fire and then later you see smoke. You see a necessary connection between them.
And finally, we get to modality. This last set of categories basically governs your mind's judgments about the status of something, like its degree of certainty.
So your mental OS is constantly making these little judgments in the background. Is this thing even possible, or is it impossible? Does this thing actually exist right now? And finally, is this something that must exist, or is it just kind of there by chance?
For instance, your mind can totally handle the idea of a flying horse as a possibility, even if you've never seen one. It registers the sun's existence as an actual fact, and it understands that 2 + 2 = 4 isn't just true, but necessarily true. It just couldn't be any other way.
So, after breaking down all 12 of these mental tools, we get to the really profound conclusion of Kant's whole project. And honestly, it's an idea that kind of changes how you see everything.
The bottom line is this. We don't just passively receive reality as it is. We are active participants in creating it. Our minds, using this built-in operating system, shape and structure our entire experience. We are literally the architects of the world we perceive.
And that leaves us with this final, really fascinating question to think about. If our reality is constructed by this mental software, what are the implications? I mean, what does it mean for things like artificial intelligence, or for different kinds of consciousness, or hey, even for our own everyday disagreements with people? It suggests that the reality we experience isn't just something we find, but something we make.